I've been a late night player. I've been broke as a joke. I've been a money maker. I've been a record breaker. Taking credit as an educator. I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky, shaky thing. Pop and lock and stop and let it hang. Watch us as we drop this. Hip hop is like a stain.
Was a Fan-atical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio, Comcast Cable, Channel 23, downtown Danbury, Connecticut, on this sweltering, pretty hot.
Yes, I would say it is.
June 30th, last day of June, and we are finally back here in studio doing our 200th episode. 200. It has been on hold for a few weeks now. Thank you, Sam, my nephew, for his graduation, which was the first delay. And then a little vacation time, a little other scheduled difficulties. But at long last, we have returned, and we are here at 6 o'clock instead of 6:30.
This is a full 1 hour of sports
So we decided, I let them talk me into it. I've always been reluctant about doing the full 1 hour show, but this time, hey, 200 only comes around once. Maybe by the time we get to 400, we'll do 2 hours.
Yeah.
Who knows? But right now, we're doing 200. You heard on the intro, a little old with the new, or the new with the old. Our usual Dick Lexus theme song was in there. But we did go with the mixing in of the original theme music, the old classic sounds that we got from the control room there. We asked this question a while back before we say hello to Bob. What was episode number 1? Did anybody ever remember what that was? It was actually not me.
No.
Episode number 1 was the Class M state semifinal between BHS, Bethel High School, pulling the shocking upset of the number 1 New London high school football team up in New London. I was there. I filmed it. It was bitter cold that night in 2009. We aired it right around, I think in January of 2010 when this show got underway. But that was the first show, and we had that opening intro that you heard there in the background for that show. It was a good one. I think maybe I'll dig that up and post that online, reshare that as we...
I remember actually watching that back when
it was pretty good. And there we see, we got a different camera set up for the special show tonight. My right-hand man, Mr. Bob Broad Jr., 200 episodes, couldn't have done it without him. How you doing, Bob? We will take the time right now to pass along our condolences to Bob. It's been a rough week for Bob. He's just coming back from vacation, to the sad news that his mother has passed away.
Yeah, she passed away on early Sunday morning.
At the tender age of?
87.
87. So she lived a long, full life. We know Bob's father, who was our number 1 fan for many years, has passed away as well about 2.5 years ago now, right?
3 years in September.
Right. So she gets to be rejoined with her husband and Bob's father as they are back together again, and now they get to watch us from above together. Because we know he used to watch all the time. He was a big fan of the show. So we're very sorry that happened this week, Bob, and I hope that you and the family are doing okay.
I'm holding in, I've been to the funeral home 3 times the last couple days, getting all of my stuff in order for next week. Next Wednesday's the wake from 4 to 7, and funerals is 11 o'clock service at Worcester Cemetery.
Right.
Thursday.
So it'll be a busy week again next week for you as you take care of all that. And we know it's always a tough time when something like this happens, but she's in a better place right now.
Yes, she is. The last 5 years of her life was terrible. The dementia was such a deadly disease.
Anybody who's ever been touched by that in their family, they know what Bob was going through and what his family was going through. A very hard thing to deal with. So, we hope she's found peace now.
Oh, I'm glad that she's. When I went to see her on Monday, it wasn't my mom laying there.
Right.
Not the way I remember my mom.
Yeah. And it's hard when you're faced with that. And it's a hard thing to kind of decide, well, it'll be better for her to be gone, but because you don't want to let them go.
No.
But at a certain time, it is better. So. All right, we are live. We're going to move back into the show. As they say, the show must go on, and Bob was game for coming down here and getting 200 in.
Yes.
203-792-4101 is the phone number for anybody who wants to call. We'd be happy to take your calls if you have any memories of some things we talked about in the last 5 years.
Yeah, anything special, especially.
We had a lot of things to talk about. Plenty of stuff. So 203-792-4101. We got an hour this time, so hopefully some people will call. Otherwise, it's going to be us.
So where do we start from the beginning?
Well, let's first make mention of the people who've been part of the show. Mm-hmm. We got Bob there with his show Spotlight on Tuesday nights at 9 and Wednesdays at 12. And Westerners Roundup is on now these days?
I am slow. I haven't.
Okay,
finished.
That's in the works.
It's in the works, but
we keep your eye on that because Bob's got plenty of stuff coming up for Westerners Roundup. We did the Celebrity Breakfast recently, which was a great event.
Yeah.
George Foster was fantastic. Really good time going down there and filming that. That went well. And of course, our director, who's been on director duty for quite some time now. Maybe he can. I couldn't find that out in my notes. I found some other things pertaining to other people, which I'll get to. But how long has Mike been the director? Pretty long time.
How long have you been directing?
Expose Cinema is Mike's show. Friday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 1. Of course, Mike.
A year and a half.
A year and a half. It seems like it's maybe longer than that. But Mike McFadden's been with us for a while. He's frantically trying to beat traffic and get here. The early start kind of threw him off.
Yeah, I know.
We'll
I had a hard time in traffic just getting here from my house.
Strange, man. He said he threw out his back, but he's on his way with stats of the 200 episode year, whatever we want to call it. We got to mention our guy David Suero, who was the original director, El Diablo, as it were. And the former evil director, Kevin Gallagher, the man responsible for getting me on Comcast to begin with. He was part of the show for quite some time. And of course, Connor and Jenna, who have been production assistants extraordinaire for a while now. Actually, looking through my notes, and I'll get to this too, Connor made his debut longer. Off the top of my head, when I get to it going through, I'll mention it. But Jenna, a year ago today, as a matter of fact, made her first appearance in front of the camera. She jumped on set and was on TV as it was June 30th, a year ago, as I looked through. So that was a year ago, and Connor was before that. We have a call?
We have a call.
Let's see. How come it never works when we want it to work? Hello? Hello, we have a phone call here. Is somebody calling in?
Happy 200th, DJ Scotty Ross. This is Prince Jimbo calling in. I saw the back signal.
Oh, Prince Jimbo. My man Jimbo James calls in. I'm glad you had the number, Jim. That's awesome.
I would never have it. I need it. I see the bat signal go up. I got to call out. I don't even know what we're talking about, but I'm ready.
Well, it's episode 200, so we're talking about whatever
you want to talk about, Jim.
The last time Jim called in was when the Red Sox collapsed in 2011. So you called actually the beginning of 2012 season, Jim, after the fallout of that whole fiasco. I was going through my notes and going through my shows, and I noticed that was the time we had you on last. You were on for that whole show. We did a baseball preview in 2012.
That's right, and I think I dropped the Godfather reference on A-Rod back if I remember correctly.
You know, as I go through some of the stories, I notice in recent years we just don't talk about the Yankees that much, Jim. Why is that?
Talk about.
Jim is a big Yankee fan. If Bob doesn't remember, I don't know. But Jim's a big Yankee fan, and I noticed that two underlying themes I found. We talked about sexy Rexy Ryan quite a bit in the first 2 years, and we talked about A-Royd and the Yankees a lot in the first 2 years. Since then, they keep falling farther back away from our topics. Well, what's going on with your Yankees, Jim?
They stink. They need to trade everybody, bring up the kids, build for the future. I want Chapman traded. I want Judge to be brought up. We need a new core floor. I'm ready. I'm ready to reboot it.
Well, the Red Sox kind of did that a little bit. The David Price thing isn't working out so well for us right now. But and the Hanley Ramirez, Pablo Sandoval, they try to reboot, but they can't quite get away from it, and they do these stupid things. But
they can't help themselves.
I know.
Get drawn back in.
But you see what's going on with the Red Sox, who are in a little bit of a struggle right now the last 2 weeks. But they have, a lot of youth on the team, which we saw building last year, even though they were terrible. But they finished strong, and the young kids really started to come on. So that's what you're looking for your Yankees, huh?
That's exactly what I want. I'll follow that model.
Get rid of Girardi.
Yeah, well, what do you think about Girardi? Bob just said, is it time to get rid of Girardi? I always thought he has gotten kind of a free pass. If you really look at his record overall, the first year here, he didn't make the playoffs when they tried to go. Remember, they tried to go young with the pitchers then? Phil Hughes, Ian Kennedy, those guys. That didn't work out. They didn't make the playoffs, and then they emptied the vault, and they spent that $450 million or whatever in that offseason.
On nothing.
Well, yeah, they won in 2009 because of that with CC.
Well, yeah, you're right.
But since then, what really has Girardi done? He oversaw 2 farewell tours that didn't make the playoffs. Jeter and Mariano on their farewell tours didn't even go to the playoffs.
But he consults the binder with a certain elegance that I think the Steinbrenners are enthralled with.
He is an elegant kind of guy.
If the boss was alive, things would be different.
I wouldn't cry if he were to be shipped off. And I'll tell you, if St. George was still alive, he wouldn't be there anymore.
That's what Bob was just echoing your sentiments. Yeah, how many years now has it been since Steinbrenner's been gone and the kids have been running? 4 years or so?
Yeah, at least, if not more. I think it was, 2010. So 6 years now.
And it's been.
I think I'm going off the top of my head.
Right. Somewhere around there, 4, 5, maybe 6 years at this point. Time flies. We all know that. But it's just a different feel. As a Yankee fan, how do you feel about just the overall, the feel of the Yankees in the past 6 years without, the mouth that roared, George Steinbrenner there? As a Red Sox fan, we hated the Yankees, but that I appreciated what George did, especially from an entertaining standpoint as well. He was entertainment, for sure, but he kept things interesting, and he was always trying to make them the best, and it was a totally different feel than what the Yankees are now. Like I said, because I've gone back and I've looked at some of the big stories, and that's what we're going to talk about in the show, what we've covered in the last 5 years or so. And I just realized we don't talk about the Yankees that much because they're not that interesting.
No, and that's one of the things that's upsetting. And, George always brought that entertaining aspect. But, the landscape in baseball has changed so much over the last couple of years with the revenue sharing. I don't know that he could be George Steinbrenner even if he were still here. He could be full of bluster and bombastic and fire everybody.
Right.
But you can't sign, Mike Trout and every other big, pitcher free agent that comes along, because Seattle can sign their own players now, and Tampa Bay and all these other so-called small market teams have enough revenue.
Strasburg just re-upped with the Nationals before he didn't even make it to free agency.
Yeah. Exactly.
And Trout, kind of the same thing a couple years ago, although he'll probably need a bigger deal than what they gave him, but they kind of re-upped him early. Teams are doing that, and then you see teams like the Kansas City Royals who, like you're talking about that youthful infusion. That's what I wanted from the Red Sox, because if you looked, the Astros have been struggling this year, but last year, youthful team doing really well. They had a great season. They stuck to their plan, and it paid off last year. The Royals, obviously, in the last 2 years, their plan has finally paid off. You look at a team like the Indians right now, and our old friend Terry Francona. Tito's doing a great job.
Tito's doing a great job. And look at last offseason, who spent the most money? The San Diego Padres. First of all, who would ever dream that? And secondly, it got them nothing.
And the Diamondbacks have spent money this offseason, right? And they're not really doing much of anything. You're right with that. That's a different deal. And if you look at the teams that have had success, and even like Bob's Mets.
My Mets last year.
You think of them as a big market team. But they made the World Series. You think of them as a big market team, but they really haven't spent much.
They operated as a small market team.
Right, exactly. So, it would be nice. I don't know why the Red Sox did, especially after They got out from under the Crawford and the Aegon contracts, and they got Beckett out of there, and then they won the World Series with smaller contract players, and then they go and they do it again. They bring in Hanley Ramirez, who is playing better this year and has been kind of a surprise at first base. But, they still got the Pablo Sandoval, and now David Price, who stinks on toast this year, and they got him for 7 years.
Yeah.
Is the Panda the first player who ever had to go on the DL because of the access to the all-you-can-eat buffet? I was wondering.
He probably was. All right, I'm going to shift gears, Jim, because I have not been here since. I'm going. I want to get your opinion on it because I know you're a basketball guy. Maybe I'll get your opinion on some Knicks stuff. But I have not been here since the dreadful end of the NBA season took place. It was about midway through the finals when we were last here. And one of the stories we would talk about was last year the Warriors winning and then coming out this year with the record-setting 73, going for back-to-back. I mean, what happened, Jim? Did you watch the NBA Finals?
Of course, every minute.
Yeah, I watched all of it too. I mean, I watched a lot of the Warriors playoff games, not just the finals, but I was pretty shocked at how flawed of a team they actually are for a team that set the record with 73 wins. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. It really was stunning. And it turned out to be that they were a team that I think when they could hit you once, they shocked you into kind of like a submission. But when you could play them in a series, you could figure them out and you could just push them around, beat them up, figure out where the passing lanes were.
Right.
Get into Draymond Green's head because he's a knucklehead.
Did you think he should have been suspended?
No, I don't.
Yeah, my point, I actually talked to my father about it yesterday. I don't know why they went back and ruled that a flagrant foul. A flagrant foul to me is something that happens during the course of a play on the court when somebody takes somebody out on a hard foul. I thought if they were going to go back and review it and assess anything, they would assess a technical foul, which would not have got him suspended.
Exactly. Am I sensing a bit of a potential, maybe some skullduggery was about that the NBA wanted?
Well, they wanted the series to be extended, that's for sure. The NBA is no stranger to trying to do what they can to extend a series, and then if it so happens it turns out that they get Bron his trophy in Cleveland, so be it. And that is what happened because you knew as soon as the suspension came down, Game 5 was going to be crucial because if the Warriors didn't win that, Cleveland was going to go home and win Game 6, and then it's do or die in Game 7 and anything can happen, even though in the NBA, typically the home team wins, except if you're a home team that only goes to the free throw line 4 times in the first 3 quarters of the game, when the road team is going to the free throw line 16 times before the final 5 minutes of that game when they got to the free throw line.
Has that ever happened before?
No.
Do you know?
Absolutely not. And especially if you're playing against a team that has the most physical player in the game who commits an offensive foul every time he touches the ball, yet he only gets called for 1 foul a game.
Right.
How does LeBron James get called for only 1 foul a game in the playoffs?
I agree with you 100%, but to be fair, he gets beat up pretty bad because he's such a physical specimen that I think the refs let a lot of stuff go.
You know that on this show we do mostly still photography, right, Jim? So every time I go through the still photography, what do I see? The forearm shiver, Bron clearing out on the offense. I mean, I see it when I watch it live too, but then it's proof positive every time I get the photos. All he's doing is clearing out with the arm and never called.
Oh, you're right. Every time he could be called for an offensive foul. Every single time.
But the other thing that I thought was, which really bothered me about the way this series was analyzed and the way people talked about it, of course, LeBron's got to get his due, and he did have 41-41 and a triple-double, which you can't, scoff at. But in my opinion, the difference in the series was Kyrie Irving. And when the series was over, nobody mentioned Kyrie Irving at all. Every headline after every game was LeBron puts the team on his back. LeBron carries them to victory. LeBron has nobody. LeBron does it by himself. Kyrie Irving won the series. If you watched that series, I don't see how anybody could say anything different.
Absolutely, and the only person I heard speak to that was Charles Barkley, and think of him what you will. but he brought that up numerous times when I saw him. He said it wasn't a one-man show.
All right, I missed that from Barkley. I'm glad to hear that you
Strange Man has arrived.
Oh, Strange Man is here. All right.
Yes.
So Strange Man has arrived. Our Strange Man is running late. We're going to get some stats of the 200 coming in. All right, Jim, we got a lot to cover in this long show, but I'm glad. Thank you so much for calling. That's awesome. It's good to talk to you. Let's hang out and catch up.
Yeah, Jim, good luck with your Yankees.
Congratulations on 200, man.
All right, thanks.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Here
Jimbo James calling in. The phone lines are open. He's calling from Strange Man. Come this way. Come on.
Go that way. Go that way.
Show off the Red Sox gear and the Bruins hat.
Yeah.
It's show number 200. You're late. You got stats of the week. Step in.
Say hello.
Say hello. Squat down so they can see that Bruins hat. We'll be talking about the Bruins. All right. Stats of the week. We'll see what we got. All right, Bob. We got off script there, but that's good.
Okay.
Phone lines are open. 203-792-4101.
So you're the great
Huh?
You look like the great Carsoni.
The great Corsoni.
Yeah.
But the camera said, there it is. There it is. What is in the Strange Man stats of the week? Strange, let's just go right to it. Let's just go off script. I spilled water all over myself.
We need some water in the camera.
Anybody have a paper towel, please?
Yes, can you have paper towels, please?
And some more water. Paper towel would be nice.
Jenna, get me a glass, please.
Strange Man stat for show 200. As I guess that's soaked.
Okay, hey, so that was the. We always have something
the
wrong.
The 5th anniversary of the Boston Bruins' last Stanley Cup championship was this spring in 2011. That was definitely a big story. Tim Thomas, I know.
Yes.
That was his thing. Did him not going to the White House, I'm not going to mention him what he's really calling it, have to not meet the president have any effect on the future preparation, on the players not repeating in 2012?
Thanks, guys.
All right. Paper towels, guys. Paper towels would be great. And are the Bruins headed up the right road in teams of rebuilding and rebuilding the franchise?
Paper towels.
Strange Man, over and out. Yeah. Paper towels, please, if we got any. That would be great. Nice.
Come on, get it. Come on, Joe. Right, Joe, come on. You can come on up here. Joe, come on.
And the water. Let's hurry. Thank you.
Come here, Jenna.
Jenna, say hello. All right, I got it. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're good. All right, so what we were gonna do, Bob, to start the show.
Hey, well, this something always goes wrong on our show, whether my mic's not working or whatever. So, right? It's par for our.
Maybe I'll use a little of this cold water to. I'm sweating here.
It's hot in here, especially this light that's on. There you go.
My notes are all wet. Oh boy.
Okay, so let's go back to square one here.
Square one. I was going to talk about where this whole show originated.
Yeah.
But since we mentioned that was a big story.
Right.
If Tui wants to go to 2011 in the Boston Bruins, well, he's going to that. Winning the Stanley Cup was a huge deal over Vancouver in a thrilling Game 7. That was the big story of 2011. Of course, with we had Jimbo on the phone there.
Right.
The Red Sox collapsed the chicken and beer Red Sox of 2011.
Yes, it was. That's very true.
Also a big, huge story in 2011, King Kemba.
Yes.
And the run to the not only Big East Championship, but the big dance, the March Madness, winning the whole thing. Kemba Walker and the UConn Huskies winning it in 2011, beating Butler. Remember the games they had against Arizona and Kentucky in the final?
Those were very significant games.
And here we see, I'll never forget that, listening to it on the radio. It was an afternoon game while I was working. Kemba with the step back dagger at the buzzer.
Right.
Go back to that picture before, Mike. There you see it, 1.3 on the clock when he lets it go against Pitt in the Garden. And that was pretty much the beginning of a 10-game run because they had to win 4 games to win the Big East tournament, 6 to win the March Madness, and the NCAA title. And that was obviously great. Those are a couple big things in 2011. But I was going to talk about the origination of the show. In 2006,
right.
I was writing a sports column called Sports Buzz: The Fanatical View for the old paper Hat City Entertainment. It used to be a monthly,
yes, I remember.
A monthly rag.
Yeah, I remember the rag. It was not much to it. There was only like a few pages, but it was
a decent paper. It was not. It was almost as thick as the News Times is now.
It is now. Yeah, that's true.
But it was probably 30 pages per month or so, like that, maybe even more. We had some good columns. My friend Joe Shabu had a great column.
Yes, I know Joe.
Maybe Joe's out there watching. Why doesn't he call? 203-792-4101. My first column, United We Stand, Divided We Brawl, was a column about how during the winter months, Met fans, Yankee fans, Red Sox fans all put aside their differences to root for the Yukon Huskies.
This is true.
And, when that shot by Denham Brown rimmed off the rim and they lost in that game against George Mason. Remember when the Cinderella George Mason went to the Final Four that year in 2006 against the Yukon Huskies in the Elite Eight, who had that powerhouse team. I think they had 4 guys end up getting drafted, the Rudy Gay, Charlie Villanueva, Josh Brown. All those guys were on that team. I wrote that all of a sudden, United We Stand, but now it was time to get in fights with your guy you were standing next to high-fiving.
Oh, yeah.
Because, in 2006, Red Sox had won the championship in 2004. There was still pretty heated rivalry with Red Sox-Yankees then, and the Mets are always, interleague play was not as old hat as it is now, so there was, and it was only 6 years past the Subway Series, so that hatred always is there. That was my first column. My last column in April of 2009 was called Roid Rage, as in Aroid, the spring training story. The hammer dropped on him that he admitted to doping in his Texas Rangers days. Yeah, we think that's the only time he took it?
No.
And from there, I started writing for Patch.com, and it was not long after that we started the show, January 2010. So, about 6 months or so, half a year later, Sports Buzz was reincarnated here. Before that, it was Kevin Gallagher who got me on the Comcast by interviewing me in 2006 for my independent film, The Roll, which I had filmed in Atlanta. And actually, that was the good deal about Hat City Entertainment. I used to get good advertising, as we see some of this ads that Tui's putting up. The Roll aired here on Comcast way back in the day, 2007, after the interview in 2006. So I did that, and I worked with Kevin. We did a couple documentaries. Hey, July 4th is coming up. We did historical documentaries about Danbury and their part in the American Revolution. And also the Sheldon's Horse, the Second Continental Light Dragoons. We went down and filmed the reenactors, and we did that. That was a great event, and I did that with not only Kevin, but David Suero, who went on to become the director of this. We did Shalamazoo the Musical.
Really?
In 2007.
Well, isn't that coming up at the Ives?
Speaking of which, that is Joe's old book, Shalamazoo, great children's book, which was turned into a musical by the Westcon Arts Department. And they put it on way back in whenever that was, 2007, I guess it was. And so as a birthday present to our friend Joe Shabu, they called him this year and said, "Hey, Joe, what do you think about us putting Shalamazoo back on July 15th?
Yeah.
He said, "That's my birthday. I think it's great." So July 15th, which is about 2 weeks away, the Ives Center is putting that back on. They're in rehearsals now, putting the finishing touches on. So we'll see what happens with that this year. I think I might actually go down and film it again. So we'll give a plug to our friend Joe Shalamazoo. Anybody out there who wants to go check him out down at the Ives Center. We'll try to talk about that again before then. So we did that. Underground TV. We're here in the background right now, Fatty Roots.
Yes.
But I did a show for David Suero's Underground TV show. For Fatty Roots, originally was in Respect Due, a tribute to Bob Marley. And we went down and filmed that. Did a full hour. We did actually a 2-part, 2 hours, I believe it was.
Right.
we covered that performance they did up in New Milford. That was actually Mikey Fresh, Sugar Summers, his first performance with them. I think maybe he did one little tune-up, but that was basically his first performance. He did a tribute show to Bob Marley. Respect due. He played with them for a while before branching off and doing Fatty Roots. They're trying to get back into it. So we did that in 2009, and it was Suero who got me hooked up with the sports guys. Somebody we don't often mention down here, Al Brun.
Oh.
USA.
Well, how I got my start, same thing, 6-7 years ago. I started
USA
with
TV Talk Sports live call-in right there. It was the Sports Jammers and the Sports Buzzster. I forgot that we were calling ourselves that back in the day. Mazzarisi and Mac Matthew, DJ Macalicious. You know, sometimes I still hear those promos that Macalicious did for WXCI, which are great promos. Those guys had a sports talk show, the Sports Jam.
Speaking of WXCI, they're doing Westerners Games live.
Westerners Games. And we're going to talk to those guys, maybe get one or two of them down here and help us out or do some Westerners Roundup show. But yes, if you're looking to catch Demery Westerners Games on the radio, you could tune in to WXCI 91.7. They're covering every home game live. And there it is, after the fallout with Al Brun and TV Talk Sports Live, Maz and I and Mac as well a little bit, but mostly Maz and I did the sports bar. We did that for a little while. How long was that on? July 2008 we did that. So we did that up until about 2010. Mazzarisi was on the first 10 episodes, first 9 episodes. Maz's last show was April 1st, 2010, episode number 9. It was during March Madness, actually. That was the year that Duke beat Butler.
Right.
In 2010. All right, so 2010.
Yeah, that's basically about what time I started.
That's when we started, and that's the question, Bob. How did you and I get hooked up?
Well, let's see. I started with Let's Talk Sports, which was James York's, and that was about 2010. And then slowly I took over after he left, which was like 2012. And I started doing. I just started as a cameraman.
It had to be Suero, right?
Yeah, Suero.
El Diablo. Speaking of which, the one thing I noticed going through this in 2010. Our year in review show, Bob, do you remember what he did for us that year?
Not really.
He brought out a full spread of food.
Okay, yes, that's right.
Mike,
he did.
In this control room there, Tui.
Yeah.
Our director used to bring us food when we did these specials.
Used to.
Remember that? He had like wings and chicken fingers and all sorts of soft drinks. Maybe we snuck in a hard beverage in there.
He'd be more than happy to bring it, he says.
What's that?
You supply the money.
All right, that's how it goes. Hey, I don't know. I think I might call Suero and see if he wants to come back and get
him
involved.
Hey, Dave, you want
we want some food and drink.
Full spread.
All right, let's go through this. 2010, Bob. Big story early in 2010 was the Winter Olympics.
Yes.
Speaking of which, Sidney Crosby, we didn't get to cover the final of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, but they did win it. They beat the Sharks. Jumbo Joe Thornton couldn't get it, my former Bruin. But after Zach Parise in the gold medal game for Team USA tied it with 24 seconds left, Sid the Kid Crosby got the game winner for Team Canada. That was a thrilling Olympic, actually. That was really exciting, USA versus Canada in the Olympics. And that was held in Canada, right?
Yes, it was.
So that made it a little extra special for them. So they won it. And then, of course, early on, in one of our first episodes, early episodes with Maz, we got to talk about, when the Saints. When the Saints.
Yes.
When the Saints go. They beat up on those Colts. Peyton Manning with the pick 6 to Tracy Porter, one of my all-time favorite players of all time. I was at my buddy Dave's and I jumped out of my seat because Porter picked it off and took it to the house, and there we see Manning on the ground in the background of that shot as the Saints went marching on to victory. And the big game actually right before that was the Saints overtime victory. Speaking of Gallagher, his brother Kyle, good friend of mine, is a huge Minnesota Vikings fan, and I was at the Gallagher home for that Vikings-Saints overtime affair with Brett Favre, remember?
Right.
That was a crazy game, and the Saints beat them, broke his heart. That was pretty rough. And the other thing that I was mentioning to Jimmy, we talked a lot in the early days about the fat man in the bathtub, Sexy Rexy Ryan, and his foot fetish, the whole bit. But the fact of the matter is, and I think I got pictures of him in 2011, if Mike's looking for the picture of Rex Ryan. And the fact of the matter is, they went to back-to-back AFC championships, Bob. They won 4 road games during that time. They couldn't beat the Colts in the AFC Championship game in 2010. They couldn't beat the Steelers in 2011. I think we got a shot of Rex Ryan in there as well, maybe. But, we talked about him a lot because he was the mouth that roared. He was always talking a big game. He did kind of back it up. He beat the Patriots in a playoff game one of those 2 years. And as I mentioned, they won those. They beat who? I think they beat the Chargers, was one of the road teams they beat.
Yes.
The Patriots, a road team. They beat the Colts one year. And they beat somebody else because remember, Dirty Sanchez, as Mike jumps to 2011, he wants me to get apparently to your big story of was that 2011? No, that wasn't even 2000. Where's he jumping on me? He's jumping I'll tell you where he's jumping.
Where's he going?
To your Giants beating my Patriots in 2012.
Way to go there, Mike.
Showing that Wes Welker pick with the drop of the football would have sealed the deal. And then he dropped the football, and there's the Rex Ryan show. And that's the other thing, Bob. You can't really see it on the monitor from where you're sitting. Look how big. I mean, it doesn't even look like the same guy.
Oh, yeah, he was huge.
I mean, he's done the whole surgery thing.
Speaking of which, not to get off the subject, I know passing of Buddy Ryan this past week was his father, and he was a very, very good coach.
Legendary. Created the 46 defense, was the coordinator for the Bears, going to the Super Bowl, winning it against my Patriots in '86. And he was also a colorful character. The kids are chips off the old block. Buddy Ryan was very colorful. Known famously also for punching Kevin Gilbride on the sideline when they were both coordinators in Houston. But yeah, another sad passing. 2011, actually, speaking of sad passings and big stories, Bob. Penn State, the huge scandal there, which ultimately led to Joe Paterno and the passing of Joe Paterno. But also remember, we did a show here. Paterno died and Smoking Joe Frazier died. And speaking of Joe Frazier, you always remember Muhammad, Cassius Clay,
standing
Ali.
over.
We got a couple of pictures of Ali, who passed away just a couple of weeks ago as well. One of the most famous American athlete probably of all time.
I met him in New York.
Did you really?
I met both of them, actually.
Who, Frazier and Ali?
And Ali. They were both at a show in New York, at one of the collectible shows many years ago. And
how was Ali's condition at that time?
He was in very good shape. This was back about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And both of them were, two guys you would want to meet. I mean, they were both still, this was before his, he was starting to have problems and stuff, but they were both
he was having problems for a long time, but I mean, he kept it together. He was always able to maintain.
And he was such a class guy.
Oh, yeah,
he was. And both
a rare person who could go from being a divisive person, where polarizing in a sense. I mean, even people of color were not thrilled with him when he changed his name to Muhammad Ali.
Right.
And did all that. And then, of course, famously refusing to go to Vietnam. He was suspended from the boxing world for 3 years. In the prime of his career, gave up tons of money in fights. But he's made a stand for social reasons, civil reasons as well. And people kind of hated him, but in the end, almost, unanimously, everybody loves Muhammad Ali at this point. And it was sad that he finally passed away just a couple weeks ago. A lot of good tributes. I'll tip my hat to a great, a lot of people know Tony Kornheiser from the PTI show.
Right.
I'm a loyal little, as they're called. Listen to his radio show via podcast. Great radio show, which is now only going to be on podcast. He had great tributes, great people coming in talking about Ali all week. And then he even backed it up by bringing guys in the following week to recap the funeral on that Friday. So you could go back and listen.
In my man cave downstairs, I have a signed photo of Frazier and of Ali.
I've got a great picture of Ali and Malcolm X together in my man cave, as a matter of fact. All right, so a couple of things in 2010. No, I'm jumping back and forth on Mike in there. I do have to mention the Westerners' run to the NECBL championship, Bob.
And
that was also the Whalers' first season that year, Danbury Whalers. But the Westerners fell short to the, I believe, North Shore Navigators, right? In a classic.
Yes.
Best 2 out of 3. It went 3 games. They were winning late in that game, right?
Yes, they were. I was there. I was
on the
filming
road. Couldn't do it. Oh, a couple other things music-wise. In 2010, episode 11. We heard at the top of the show, Dick Lexus. That's how long his music's been with us.
Really?
And in episode 20 of 2010, Fatty Roots dropped their CD, and that's who we hear in the background right now.
How is Mr. Fatty Roots doing?
He's okay. He's doing
Has
all right.
he got anything new?
I don't know.
Works, or?
He's living with his girlfriend now, Mike. We don't see him anymore.
No?
His life has changed.
He's not doing any reggae?
A little bit. He actually had a reggae duo, just him and the acoustic duo a couple nights ago. Last night? 2 nights ago. All right, what did I miss from 2011? Bruins, we got Dirk Nowitzki and Dallas downing the Heat in 6 in NBA action. That was a good one. There was an NBA lockout in 2011, right, 66 games until Christmas. NFL lockout as well. They didn't miss any games. The Packers beat the Steelers that year. Women lost in the World Cup. That was a big event. Remember, I thought that Canada got jobbed in the semifinal against USA. USA got lucky to win that game on a shoddy call. But then Japan shocked them in a back and forth game that went extra time, and they lost that. As there we see World Cup 2012. I think that was Germany winning in Spain. I'm sorry, that was the 2012 World Cup Spain. Also in 2011, we also often talk about Devin Rodriguez.
Yes, we did.
That was the year he had the fight of the year against Pavel the Pole Wolak, where remember the shiner he gave him? His whole face was out to here. I think we got a picture. There it is. His eye just all over the place. I don't know if I had 2 pictures or just that one. Huge. I mean, he was just killed. All right, we're going to move along because I think
we're running.
We got about 20 minutes left, and we're still in 2011. 2012. Can you say Linsanity?
Yes. That was crazy, wasn't it, back then?
3 weeks of Linsanity. We thought he was going to be the greatest player. He had a great season for Charlotte this year. The Knicks could have used him.
The Knicks could use anybody this year. They were.
And as we mentioned, Jimbo Myers made the call in 2012. We're glad he got the call. Where's the callers? Yes. 203-792-4101.
Episode. We have 15 minutes left to go, and we only have 1 call.
Where's Uncle Buck when you need him? Where's
Buck,
Joe Jet Linsanity. The Heat beat the Thunder. That was terrible. How about the scab refs, Bob?
Oh yes, that was the
touchdown. Is it a Hail Mary? The Fail Mary. What was it? And that was the end of the scab refs. That was terrible. The London Olympics was interesting. We saw really the birth. Not quite. I mean, I think maybe we'd seen Usain Bolt before then, but that was really his launching pad. Usain Bolt, and also the women gymnastics, USA, had a huge turnout there and won the gold. And Andy Murray, in a prelude perhaps to the Wimbledon title in 2013, he won the Olympics in London. So on the Wimbledon grounds, he backed that up in 2013 by ending Great Britain's long drought of major championships by winning Wimbledon in 2013. The Scotsman did it. Another interesting story, Bob, we probably didn't talk about it too much. How about this? The New York Marathon canceled due to Hurricane Sandy.
Yes, that was a bad day.
Speaking of bad days, your Giants beat the Patriots, and I had to come in here and wear a Giants jersey.
That's right, you did.
I've never lived that down. Can't believe that. Wes Welker, what a bum. What a stiff. Westerners had another playoff run in 2012, but they came up short. Coach Calhoun,
yes,
always on the desk, front and center. And if you're ever wondering why we have this old classic Coca-Cola bottle, it's because it's a Yukon Huskies championship bottle. What year is it from?
90.
99, the original Coke Classic.
Yes.
The original, beating Duke in one of the greatest games of all time. Yeah, I mean, this year's March Madness, we talked about this on the show, I think. I mean, why that 99 game doesn't go down as one of the great games of all times, I don't know. That Villanova game this year was a great game, but I mean, it wasn't that great a game.
No.
Come on. UConn beating the once beaten Duke team that was beating teams by 30 points a game that year.
Right.
Coach Calhoun, there it is with the trophy. Glad I had that picture in there. I forgot I had that. Episode number 75, Bob, in 2012. What happened on that show? It was a special show. We covered vintage baseball. Remember the vintage game that was down at the Rogers Park?
That was from...
But what else did I put in that episode? A little old interview with Miss Connecticut, USA.
Yes. Ashley
Leach.
Yes. I'd actually seen Ashley not too long ago.
Oh, yeah? How's she doing?
She's doing good. I just ran into her briefly.
She's been interning, I know, for a little while at ESPN, right?
Yes, she does.
She has a sports broadcasting career that she's trying to get up and running. That was a great day. She came down to Rogers Park, threw out the first pick.
Yep.
I got to interview her. It was a pretty good day.
It was.
Not too bad. Speaking of bad days, though, Bob, it wasn't all good for your New York-based sports teams.
No.
The Devils and the Rangers met up in an Eastern Conference final in 2012. What happened?
It wasn't.
The Devils beat the Rangers, and then in the Stanley Cup Finals, we got to see
Mr. McFadden's here.
McFadden showed up. All right, I'm glad to see. McFadden's been a big part of the show in recent years, so we're happy he made it down. But we got to see the birth of the original Connecticut kid, Jonathan Quick. Leading the LA Kings to their first Stanley Cup final championship. He's out of Connecticut. Speaking of Connecticut kids, let's jump to 2015 real quick. We'll stay on that theme. Maybe I got a picture in there of one Joey Logano in 2015 picks. There it is. Yeah, not having as good a year as he had last year, but he won the Daytona 500 last year. The Middletown, Connecticut kid.
10 minutes.
10 minutes, all right. We're doing all right. I'm on pace. We got it. No problems. So, yeah, that was big. That were two Connecticut kids. You know, we've covered Delvin Rodriguez. He's had championship bouts. Joey Logano and Delvin, you know, is out of Danbury.
Yes.
Big deal. Joey Logano, the Middletown kid. We've got fans up in the Middletown area, Connecticut, who tune in. And of course, you know, Jonathan Quick. All right. 2013, we mentioned Eddie Murray, but really, the big, huge deal, the Red Sox, after the Bobby Valentine failed experiment,
which didn't
back on top. And there we see Koji Uehara winning it all with the Red Sox. And that, talk about exciting playoffs runs. You and McFadden got to experience it with your Mets going to the World Series. You didn't get the result the Red Sox got, but you got the energy and the edge of your seat excitement that comes along with a deep playoff baseball run, pitch by pitch. Everything matters. The Red Sox went 4 games against the Rays, 7, I believe, against the Tigers in what was a thrilling series.
It was.
And 6 against the Cardinals. And they won it at home. Remember, in Boston, first time they had celebrated a championship victory at home in about 100 years. That was a huge thing. The Iron Bowl, Auburn versus Alabama. Right. Remember the attempted long field goal by Alabama and Nick Saban to try to win the Iron Bowl came up short. Auburn caught it and ran it back for a touchdown to win the game as time expired, and they went to the championship game where they ultimately lost to FSU and Jameis Winston, famous Jameis. Another big deal, say hey Trey Allen and his dagger of a 3 against the Spurs to help Bron get that trophy. And the Miami Heat.
Can we not talk about Bron?
Ridiculous. How about this for a big story? Aaron Hernandez.
Oh.
Can you say murder was the case that they gave me?
Yes.
He's still in jail. That thing is still going through court proceedings. I don't know. Aroyd was a big deal in 2013.
Speaking of Aroyd, I saw the post, was it Monday? That the Yankees are now spending $20 million to keep him on the bench.
Yeah, he can't play.
He's the highest paid, guy to be just doing whatever he's doing.
He got that contract.
Designated hitter. So
and he got it done. All right. So 2013, Aroyd, that's when the suspension went down. Whalers win the FHL Commissioner's Cup. I think we should have pictures in there. Yeah, there's that. Speaking of hockey, the Bruins lost a tough one to the Blackhawks in 2013. Could not get their second. Yes. The Blackhawks, we know, have become a dominant force in the hockey world. Disappointing that was. A stunner. Remember, the Bruins in Game 6 at home in front of the Hub of Hockey's faithful, up 1 with about a minute and a half to go. They gave up the tying goal and then the winning goal.
Right.
Oh my God, was that just a shocker as that went down. 2014, UConn men and women again, Bob. Yes. How many championships has not only men but the women won? Holy cow. We thought that 2012 run was incredible, or 2011 I should say. 2014 with Shabazz, my new favorite UConn Husky, 60-54 the final over Kentucky. Shabazz had 22 points in that game. And your Rangers made it to the finals after, coming back from overcoming that loss to the Devils. They did get back, but the Kings cupped them again. Jonathan Quick.
Yeah.
He's the man. Germany beat Argentina. Speaking of Argentina, Bob, in the World Cup in 2014, how about that? Well, what just went down in the Copa final.
Right.
Argentina trounced USA with Messi playing out of this world in the semifinal. Great run by USA. But they come up short and Messi misses the kick.
Right.
Holy cow. The penalty, they go to PKs against Chile. Chile wins back-to-back Copa. All right, we're running out of time. 5 minutes left. The Seahawks beat the Broncos in 2014, but they could not in 2015 beat the New England Patriots. Huge story, which continues to this day, Deflategate.
And Deflategate is still going strong.
I got you Deflategate right here. It comes in the form of a New England Patriots Super Bowl championship. Deflate this, honkus.
But the media will not let it die, right?
Of course not. Well, the NFL won't let it die. That's what they do. Yes. Patriots win. Great start to the year. American Pharaoh, the Triple Crown, Bob.
Yes.
Huge story. And that first leg of the Triple Crown, Cinco de Mayo weekend, the Cinco de Derby, as it were, took place on the day that another supposed big event, Mayweather-Pacquiao, which was a dud of all duds. That was a big dud. Other big stories, well, your Mets, Bob.
Yes.
Coming up short in the World Series.
But we made it to the worst, and we didn't even think we were going to make the playoffs.
It was a great run in the second half of the year. You have to give the Mets credit. They really came up large, made a great run, sweeping the Cubs, took care of the Dodgers in 4, right? And the Royals were just too tough a team.
Hey, I mean, we have some great arms in the pitching staff and this year has been just as good. I mean, look at Cologne. 40 years old, and his first home run was.
As we're running out of time, I'll run through a couple more things worth mentioning. All right, so in 2014, episode number 147, who made his first appearance on the show? Connor.
Speaking of
Is
which,
Connor coming out to say hello?
Come on out, Connor.
Where is he? He hasn't been on the show yet. And it was, as I mentioned, on this date 1 year ago, Jenna was on camera. Oh, and he knocks the helmet off. Here's my buddy. How's your wrist, by the way? The cast is off. All better?
Yes.
What do you got?
Mark calling everybody.
Well, we're on live television here. Speak.
Five Nights at Freddy.
What? I can't say what you're saying.
Five Nights at Freddy.
Five Nights at Freddy? What does that mean?
It's a video game.
All right. Play the video. Connor loves the video games. All right, Connor. Thanks for all your help. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you in the next show, in the next 200.
Uh-oh. Here comes Jenna.
Jenna can come back if she wants. All right, another big story as we weren't really running out of time was Serena Williams, Bob.
Yes.
Going for the Grand Slam, coming up short at home in New York City. The U.S. Open against Roberta Vinci. That was pretty crazy. The U.S. women won the World Cup. That was a big story. You know, we had Caden also, speaking of kids on set. We've been covering the Play for Purpose for 3 years now.
And I actually did video this year, which...
Yeah, we've put those up online. You can find all our shows, by the way, on YouTube, at the Sports Buds page, on Facebook.
Also
a lot of Bob's Spotlight On shows are up online now on YouTube. He's got his Spotlight On page as well on Facebook and on blogspot.com, Sports Buzz, the Fanatical View. But Caden was on set as well last year talking about Play for Purpose. All right, so we're down to a minute.
One minute.
Maybe I missed a couple things, but you got the gist of it.
Quick thing for next week.
What do you got?
Next Saturday, well, this Saturday is a doubleheader at the Westerners. And next Saturday, it's first responder night for all the first responders, fire, police, and EMS. Come on out. It's free. Bring your apparatus.
All right.
Your family, come on out.
It'll be a big show. All right. So with that, let's say hi to Jenna. Thanks, Jenna. Looking good as always. I'll say that, of course, couldn't do it without the...
I will not be here next week.
Correct. I couldn't do it without the support of everybody down here at Comcast, all the people we mentioned that got me involved, the crew, Jenna, Connor, Mike, and Strange Man, the people that have been doing it.
Bye-bye.
And also without the support of the 5 to 10 fans who view in weekly. All right, we'll see you next time for 201. Take care.